Hello, friends. Miss Natalie here, and today I want to show you how to add a range of values to your little guy drawing so that it will fulfill the form and value digital drawing requirements. So I'm going to be mostly working inside this layer that's called Vector Layer 2. It is actually a paint layer, and maybe I will rename that. Remember, if you click and then click again on the name, you can type in a new game name. So I'm going to call this little guy, actually. Little guy paint layer. There we go. So it's my little guy and he's in a paint layer. Okay, the first thing I want to do is choose my mid-tone or my local color. What color is this little guy? Um, I've made him blue before. Do I want to make him green? Oh, he looks so good in blue, though. I think I'm going to make a little blue guy. All right, so I'm choosing the pure tone of my color, which is the one that's the farthest to the right point on the triangle. And I'm going to use the fill tool. Since I am in a paint layer, I can just fill my little guy in. And I'm going to have his little circly hands also be that color blue. Awesome. Okay, now I'm ready to add some shadows. And I'm going to do that all in a vector layer so that I can have the shadows follow the curve of my little guy. So I'm going to click on that down triangle and choose Add Vector Layer. And then I'm going to choose a color for the shadow. Um, I'm not putting a bunch of shadows in, so I'm just going to use a color that's a bit darker, but not super dark. So I'm choosing the color that is, or I should say the value that is halfway between my true blue and black. And that will be the value for my shadow. Okay, I'm going to go over to the line tool and I'm going to now draw a line. Let's see, first of all, I have to decide where the light's coming from, and I'm just going to have it coming from there. Boop. So that way my shadow will probably be from on the opposite side of where the light is. So if it's from there, then the shadow is probably going to go across about there. All right, now I'm going to go over to my Edit Shapes tool, and I'm going to edit this line so it curves around the body of my little guy. It follows the curve of his body. I also want to make sure the end of my line is going to be behind that black line. That's why I have this vector layer behind my copy that's just the line drawings. That way the black line drawing will always be on top and I won't cover it up. All right. That's a pretty good place for a shadow. The other thing I want to do is put in my reflected light. So I'm going to choose a color that's, whoop, not yet. I forgot. I got to change it from Edit Shapes to Line Tool. Then I can change my color without things going crazy. So I'm going to choose a color that's halfway between my true blue and white for my reflected light. And we're just going to assume there's just a tiny bit of light that's reflecting off of the floor. We are going to put a floor in for him to stand on. So we're just going to make a very short line that maybe goes from there to there. Again, it's opposite of where my light is coming from. All right, and then we're going to use that Edit Shapes tool to turn this straight up line into more of a curve. And it's not going to be very a very thick area. I'm zooming in here so you can really see. I might even want to just leave it there. Let's see that. Make that so it's behind. So it looks kind of like a slice. Nice. And that one looks like a slice too. And that might be that's it. That's my reflected light. Very, very slim, but it's there. Okay, the last thing, is this really the last thing? No, there's a couple more things. I forgot. I want to have shadows on his hands also. So I'm going to use that line to, I have to stop changing the color before I go to the line tool. Y'all, even I make mistakes. Okay, so I'm going to go back to that shadow color. The good thing is Advanced Color Selector always saves your color over to the side. And I'm going to put in the shadow for the hand. And I'm going to say if the light's coming from this direction, then the shadow's going to go that way. Zoom in, make sure I got, yep. And then we can go over here and have the same kind of angle for that shadow. And then back to do the edit shapes. I'm going to have to edit this shape in because I went a little too far, bring it in and just make it curve. So there's that shadow. That'll work. Over here, make it curve. So we got a shadow there. All right. I don't think his hands need highlights because now it is the time for the highlight. And I'm going to choose a color that is almost white, but not quite for my highlight. And the way I'm going to put a highlight in is by using the ellipse tool with the tool option fill with foreground color. So I'm just going to now make a little ellipse that's just going to be where the light is bouncing off of his shiny little head. All right, and I'm going to use, in this case, I'm going to use the Select Shapes tool to hover over the corner until I see the rotation symbol, and I'm going to rotate it. And then I'm gonna, get the cross and pick it up so it is right there where the light would be hitting. Boop, there's his little highlight. Okay. Now I can flatten out this layer so it merges with the one below. So they're all going to be all in one paint layer. And there's a couple ways to do that. One way is to go over to layer and then to merge with layer below. You can also hit Control E. And now everything is in one paint layer. Why did I want it to be in one paint layer? Well, for a couple reasons. Number one, I can now use the fill tool. So I can go in and I can fill in those shadow. Oh, darn it. Crud, crud, crud. Well, I can fill that in. I made that darn mistake again. But the good thing is that I can just go to my true color and click there and it's gone. And I missed that. Well, I can always delete it. And so I can fill that in here and the little hand there. And so I now have a highlight, my midtone, my shadow, my reflected light. And I can also come over here with a eraser and just erase that line too. I can do that in a plane layer. All right, what else do I want to, the next thing I want to do is use my fill tool to fill in those eyes. And I'm going to choose a blue that's almost black, but not quite, to fill in the eyes. Right now, the tooth looks white because the back, but it's actually see-through. So what I really need to do is choose white and fill it, and now it's a truly white. And now that I'm on white, I am going to go back to my brush tool. That's way too big. Make it a little smaller. Yeah, that's a good size. And give my little guy some little eye shinies, which will make him look either cuter or creepier, one or the other. Oh, I forgot one last thing I wanted to do. And I'm going to see if this will work. I'm going to add a vector layer here. Actually, this is good. There are a couple things that I want to do. So with a vector layer, I want to get that blue that I used on my reflected light. And I'm just going to change my brush size back to 10. And I'm going to put just a little highlight on the top of his lip. And I can do that just like I did. There we go. Just a little tiny highlight on the top of the lip to show that it's sticking out a little bit. Um, okay. This kind of shading is called cell shading. It's like shading in cell animations. It's not extremely 3D, but it gives the illusion of more it gives more of a three-dimensional illusion than if I just colored it in flat. All right. So last thing, I'm going to go back to that. Nope, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to change. I'm going to choose my ellipse tool. Oh, I'm glad you're seeing me make these mistakes. That way you know not to do that. And I am going to, actually, I'm going to make it a little less dark. Yeah, and I'm going to give a cast shadow right there. So there's the shadow that his little body is casting on the ground. All right. So now I'm going to go to this paint layer that is behind everything, and I am going to put in a background. And since orange is the opposite of blue on the color wheel, I'm going to make his background orange. I'm going to draw a straight line, and then I'm going to fill it in with that orange, the bottom, and then I think I'm gonna, do I want to do a light? Maybe I'll do a lighter orange at the top. And now I have a little guy casting his shadow. He's got a highlight. He's got highlights in his eyes as well. He's got reflected light. He's got a little highlight on his lip. He's got lots of values, and he has the beginning of the idea of form. So now you know how to add, in a very simple way, shadows and highlights to a little guy. You can go and make some art.